Today, we want to talk to you about a very sensitive subject. There's no shaming here. Everyone is free to enjoy whatever they like. But we need to talk about your role-playing. And by that, obviously, we mean the roles you play in Counter-Strike. Why? What did you think we meant? Hey guys, it's Dave, and welcome to ProGuides. So, CS is all about working as a team. Essentially, you guys are 5 parts in the same machine. You may have different jobs, but you all have to work together in order to win. Knowing your roles and the roles of your teammates is what pushes good players into great players. We're going to break down the different roles in a CS team. Spoiler alert, there are more than 5. We'll be explaining the job of each role and how they work alongside their teammates to create that single machine. Finding your own role is a tough task, but armed with our breakdown, you'll have a better understanding of which one you think suits you best. Our first role of the day is the IGL, or in-game leader. This role is the top dog, the big cheese, the VIP. Your IGL is responsible for every call that gets made in the game. Now, every team will work differently, but for an IGL to be able to do their job properly, they rely on the trust of their teammates. What they say goes. There can't be any second guessing or doubts. If your IGL tells you to get a certain loadout, you get it. If they tell you to hold an angle and not move, you stand there like a statue. If they tell you to jump around the corner and you know an enemy is watching, you go down in a blaze of glory. But your team isn't going to blindly make you the IGL. First, you need to have an excellent understanding of the game. They also need to know the strengths and weaknesses of their teammates so that they can bring out the best in them. It's right there in the name. An IGL is a leader through and through. If your team doesn't have a coach, most won't, the IGL is also in charge of checking out the competition. They'll be the ones losing sleep. They're too busy reviewing the demos of your opponents trying to anti-strat them. It's a massive and often thankless job. If your team isn't performing, it's usually the IGL who gets blamed first. But if your team gets that W, the IGL is the first one to get the credit. The next role we want to look at is the AWPer. Often the star of the show, any AWPer worth their salt will have their fair share of highlight clips. But depending on who you ask, an AWPer will either have the easiest or the hardest job in a team. So much focus is on a team's AWPer. If they're doing well, it's just expected. And if they're doing poorly, they're ruining the match. The sheer cost of an AWP puts a massive amount of pressure on this role. On the surface, it's very simple. You watch a position and then you click once on an enemy. One click. That's all. No spray control needed. So why isn't everyone trying to AWP? Well, because that one click is usually the only chance you'll get. If an AWPer fails their first shot, they're immediately on their back foot and the enemy can start to swarm them. Naturally, it's a high-risk, high-reward role. Now, not everyone is cut out for it. You need to have the reactions and raw aim to be able to hit your shots every single time. So why so many would-be AWPers transition into a different role? They're just not cut out for it. Next up, let's check out Lurkers. Usually a T role, Lurkers are responsible for themselves. Lone wolves, solitary hunters. They rely on their game sense and prediction to intercept enemies. They're not there strictly for kills. A Lurker can also relay key information about enemy locations, routes, or loadouts. Lurkers are not quite the powerhouse of CS that they used to be. A player could once spend a whole game doing nothing but lurk and still have an impact. Some pro players were once defined by their lurking, like Get Right or Happy. But as players became more and more aware of those lurker antics, a lurk just became expected in a round. Lurkers got less effective because of it, and we saw fewer and fewer players in the role. Instead, what we see now are smaller versions of lurks. The risk isn't as great, and teams don't need to dedicate a whole role to it. We have hybrid roles where a player will lurk and perform another function within a team. But some players still cling to that dedicated lurker role. It just sounds cool. The idea is cool, and you feel cool when you pull it off. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be much more useful just sticking with your team and helping them out. Our fourth role is the support player, aka the middle child, aka the ugly duckling, aka that misshapen donut in the store. Nobody wants to be the support player. Your stats suck. People usually don't recognize your contributions, and you never get any highlight clips. It's just a shame that this role is such a completely integral part of a team. Support players do it all. It's right there in the name. Support. You need a flash? They got you. Your star player needs a drop. Here, take a rifle. Anything you need, they're there for you. Surely it would be better to have another aim star there instead of support, right? But the reason that some of the best players perform as well as they do is because they have a support player to take the hit. To counter this, a lot of the time support players will also take up some IGL roles. They fit in the role well because a support player has to have a greater understanding of the game, of how all the pieces of a team fit together, and of the impact that their support will have on the star players. Support players aren't automatically the worst player on the team either. It's more than that. If there's a dirty job that nobody wants, you have a guy who will get in the mud for you. The support may not get the glory, but they get the satisfaction of knowing they made everything happen behind the scenes. Next up, we have the anchor of the squad. A CT role. These guys are your impenetrable fortress. They're responsible for holding down an area, usually a bomb site, completely on their own. If your anchor is good enough, the whole team will work around them. Since you want to give your anchor the best chance of defending the site, you need them with all their tools. To achieve this, teams will make sure the anchor hangs onto their utility if you want to leave them alone on a site. For example, let's say you have two players defending the B side of Inferno. One of them is your anchor. At the start of the round, one of your A players will head to B and toss grenades down Banana along with the non-anchor B player. Then, the A guy will rotate back over to A. This means that if you rotate your other B player off, the anchor is there with a full statue of nades. Anchor players are experts in gauging when and how to use their utility for maximum impact. Their job is all about staying alive for as long as possible. They're not looking to kill everyone that comes their way, they just want to delay. Because of this, they're really greedy about kills and don't overextend like a lot of players. They know just how much of themselves to expose in order to be a threat without endangering their own life. As soon as they go down, the enemy can swarm the site. These guys are your last line of defense. Our sixth role is the entry fragger. As you might have guessed, this is generally a T-side role. Your entry fragger is responsible for, get this, getting frags on your entry to a site. I know, it's really top-notch naming. Like a support role, it can often be a rough job. An entry fragger who is on point will have cat-like reflexes and grab those kills the moment they possibly can. But everyone has off days, and it's your entry guy's score who will suffer the most. He's the first one through the door, and he's also the first one in the firing line. But he can't do it all on his own. He relies on support from his teammates to set him up for success. He needs the support guy to toss flashes or smokes to make that choke point a little less chokey. Once your entry guy is on the site, win or lose, he needs to start relaying information. Where are the enemies? How many are there? What weapons do they have? Your entry player should have the answers. The best case is your entry guy gets the opening kill. But any decent CT team will be set up to trade that first death, taking down your entry player. A 1-for-1 trade is a good deal for your entry guy. I mean, he can rest easy. His job is done. Entry players have it tough, no doubt about it. Similar to a support role, you need to have the right personality. You're not going to get that many highlight reels as the entry, unless you're Stewie 2K. Your superstar moments will be thin, but you're still a key component to the team. Without you, it all falls apart. Our last role for today is going to be the Playmaker, also known as the second entry. The second entry part probably gave it away, but this player is usually the second on the site during a T-execute. The Playmaker comes in hot on the heels of your entry fragger. Their job is to secure the site, thanks to your entry guy's info, and sacrifice. Since they're not the first one on the site, their aim and reactions don't need to be quite on par with your entry player, but they still need to be up there. It's a high adrenaline role. After that first CT death, the remaining defenders will be trying to stay alive long enough for their teammates to rotate in. The Playmaker's job is to flush them out of their hiding holes and win the duels. This role relies on a strong understanding of how those remaining CTs are going to move and react to this T-execute. They have to be able to predict their movements and make a play to get the team deeper into the site safely. These guys are usually the superstars of the team. If they do their job well, they will live through the entry, the execute, and are still alive to help clutch the end of a round. So naturally, they have to excel at everything. Positioning, movement, spray control, utility usage. Heck, they can even op if they need to. Everybody wants to be the playmaker, but the skill requirement means it's reserved for only the very best. When finding your role, you don't need to be stuck with just one all the time. You gotta try a lot of hats to find the one that fits just right. Different matches and different teams will call for different skills and roles from you. And if you know the roles in which you perform best and worst, then you can easily figure out how you'll be most effective. Now remember, the role you want to play might not be the role that's best for you. Try them all. Even if you don't stick with a role, you'll have a better understanding and appreciation of how the role is played. That's all from us today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below which role you play. Or if you'd like to learn the tips and tricks to improve your role, be sure to check out ProGuides.com. Until next time, good luck in your matches.